Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, a great king passed away, leaving behind his queen and daughter. There was also a kind witch who loved the princess and helped the queen care for her. As the princess grew up, she was set to marry a prince from a distant kingdom. As the wedding day approached, she prepared to travel to his land. The queen packed all the precious jewelry and royal clothes for her daughter and said, "My dear daughter, take these valuable jewels with you and live a happy life." She appointed a maid to travel with her as her personal servant. Each had a horse. The princess's horse was a gift from the kind witch, and his name was Falada, and he could talk. Before the princess left, the witch said, "Wait, I have something else for you." She took a pair of scissors, cut a lock of her own hair, and said, "Take care of this, my dear. It contains an enchantment that might help you on your journey." The princess bid farewell to her mother and the kind witch, then left with the maid and Falada the horse. After hours of travel, the princess felt thirsty and asked the maid, "Could you please fetch me some water?" The maid replied, "If you're so thirsty, get down from your horse and drink water yourself. I am not your servant." Shocked, the princess dismounted and knelt by the river to drink. As she did so, the lock of hair whispered, "Poor girl, if the queen knew, she would be so sad." Yet the humble princess said nothing, got back on her horse, and continued their journey. After more hours passed, the princess felt thirsty again. She approached the river and asked the maid, "Could you please fetch me some water?" The maid repeated, "I told you to drink by yourself." Once again, the princess knelt by the river to drink, and the lock of hair whispered, "If the queen knew, she would be so sad." The maid is disobedient, but be careful, princess. Do not compromise too much. "Oh no, I'm falling into the river." The lock of hair fell into the river and was washed away. The maid turned to the princess and said, "Now you are weak. From now on, I will give the orders, and you will obey. Take off your clothes and give them to me. Take my clothes, for I am the princess now, and if you tell anyone, you will regret it." The maid wore the princess's clothes and rode Falada, while the real princess rode the other horse. Finally, they reached the royal palace, where the prince welcomed them, believing the maid to be his bride. "Welcome, my dear wife," he said to the maid. The maid replied, "I am happy to be here with you." The prince then asked, "Who is this?" referring to the real princess. The maid smugly replied, "She is my personal maid, but I do not like her. Can you find some work for her?" The prince said, "I have no work for her, but I have a boy named Karkin who tends the geese. She can help him." The maid said, "Oh, my prince, I have another request. Please get rid of my horse Falada. I almost fell because of him." The maid knew Falada could talk and feared he might reveal the truth. So her plan was executed, and Falada was killed. When the princess heard this, she cried and asked the hangman to hang Falada's head above the city's massive gate, so she could see her beloved horse every morning and evening. The hangman agreed and did as she asked.